Welcome to not the Greenhorn podcast, Developing Dads podcast. I think it's my first intro I've done. Just mucked it up.
Oh my God.
Gordon's reaction if you're watching on the YouTubes. This is episode 23, and today we're going to be speaking about just all things random dad chat. So this was inspired by Tim Ferriss, who I've mentioned a few times, and a guy called Kevin Rose, who's a kind of serial investor and big in the NFT world, and they've been following him for like 10 years. Anyway, they have a random show every month, and they just literally drink wine and get pretty drunk and just discuss everything from life hacks to NFTs to what they're investing in and all that stuff. So I thought I'd take some of that, but then have a dad focus, and I've got a few kind of thoughts and things that I want to distill with Gordon, and we can chat through it. But as we normally do, how's your week been, Gordon? You're just back from Park Run. This is number 3 Park Run? Number two Park Run.
How
you getting on?
Very well. I feel super unprepared for today's podcast, just because it's been a mad week. Oh my word.
Daily vlogs.
It is, yeah. It's just been a really crazy week, I guess. And then, first of all, I hope I can contribute towards this podcast in some form. I'm sure I can give some thoughts and feelings and musings and whatever else and random whatever this will be. But yeah, a really crazy week. Just, the past 2 days, Thursday and Friday, we're recording this on a Saturday. Thursday and Friday, I probably did, 2 14-hour shifts, give or take, maybe longer. And a lot of people, like, it is, if you saw Neil's face there when he was on YouTube, you'll see he kind of like, there's a grimace, right, when people think they do 14 hours of work in a day. And there is kind of part of that. They're long days and they're hard and you're tired. But there's kind of a weird sense of, like, I really enjoy it. Like, I really enjoy what I'm doing. And it's just, it is work, it's sometimes, but most of the time it's pretty solid. Like, it's not terrible.
Yeah, I mean, you probably calculate the total hours you're away from home minus a commute and call that work. But I'm in a similar boat. Like, this week, I was working in the evening a couple of times just to get things done and out the door. And I enjoy it. So it doesn't feel like, Rebecca's out, so there's not much impact. Kids are sleeping. I enjoy it. So
I did have a slight existential crisis of considering, when I say I'm enjoying work, am I just like, do I enjoy work? Like, I was actually asking myself, I'm doing like 14 hours. Am I actually enjoying this, or am I just telling myself I'm enjoying this so I can get through it? So there's kind of like these weird questions that have been running through my head about stuff like that. And what else have we been doing? Yeah, we hit the second week of the daily vlog. It's been just, it's really nice. Everybody, I think, in every business, every employee, I guess, in every kind of business or whatever it might be, it's looking for that golden goose, the unicorn, something that's going to either potentially turn into a needle mover, or just something that is recognized within the business where everybody just looks at it and goes, "That's friggin' sick," right? That's an Ali Abdaal now word usage, sick, and it really feels like that because it's been so nice that people who work alongside me, the team, they've all been commenting on how brilliant it is, and that's great. Like, that feels really, really good. And there was a moment when we were in Cambridge for something that didn't necessarily happen, but we were in Cambridge and we're sat in a room and there was 4 or 5 of us that were kind of we were working on various book things, and I was doing the vlog, but we had the premiere basically of the vlog from the day before that had been edited and ready to go. And there was like 4 or 5 people just sat around a laptop, sort of nice, eagerly waiting to watch the daily vlog. And that feels really good. That's a really nice thing to be doing. And the numbers are matching it on the second channel. We've been getting at least 10k, 15k views per vlog. The channel itself has grown about 12% in the space of 2 weeks. So, that's been really good. But it's also tough because it's my main focus. It's the thing I've got to get out. And then I've also got to do everything else that goes alongside the YouTube channel, which is recording main channel content, organizing the production team overall, making sure everyone's happy and things are getting done the way they should be getting done, planning courses ahead of time, thinking about going on holiday. Like, it's just been a mad week, I guess.
I mean, a daily vlog, especially the kind of videographer of a daily vlog, is almost a full-time job.
No, it is a full-time job, Neil. It's not almost, it is. But the one thing is, there's a good book called The E-Myth Revisited, and it discusses the idea of don't focus on people, focus on systems. And the system that we have for the daily vlog is working really well. You know, it's going out on time, it's edited really well, because what we do is I film it all day, I create the proxies and create the content, essentially, send it off to a Filipino editor. His name's Ken, by the way, but I mentioned the Philippines because it's a different time zone, which is 8 hours ahead of us. So when I wake up in the morning, it's pretty much like an edited vlog. That's then uploaded, or I check it, then it's uploaded, and then Jamie, our YouTube producer, does the caption and the title and the thumbnail, so I can just continue filming that day, and it just turns into this little factory, and it's working really well. So
yeah, nice.
It's doing well. I'm trying to think what else I've been up to. We had a PTYA, Part-Time YouTuber Academy live event yesterday. So we're filming that and then meeting all the alumni, the students of one of the cohorts and previous cohorts. So there was maybe 100 people there or so.
Wow, awesome.
Yeah, there was like people were in from like San Francisco. They were from California overall. There's a few people from parts of Europe and things came in to do it, and it was just really nice. It's nice to meet people that are sort of really aspiring YouTubers, you know, and really want to do that as their career. And certainly people who are in like professional careers. One's an ER doctor, one was a dentist. There's a few other people doing sort of engineers, that kind of thing. So it was really nice to talk to them. And it was really nice. They were asking me all sorts of questions. Like, I still don't see myself as a professional, Neil. I'm still, like, I'm totally winging it. And they're all asking me questions. They're like, "Oh, it's amazing what you're doing, and it's great." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's great. You know, I'm just doing what I'm doing, I guess." Yeah. And then this morning I didn't want to go and do the park run, but I've got my father-in-law David, he was just super keen. He was keen to do it. I think he was also he had a bit of a cold because Olivia's had a cold, but that was really good. Did a 24:40 5K, so I got under that 25 minutes, which is I feel is just that benchmark that I'd love to be able to maintain throughout my life. That was nice. Raced a 6-year-old girl to the finish line, which was she beat me, but that was still satisfying to try and do it. And we've got a little bit this weekend to do, and then the house is still progressing, I guess. Still costing a lot of money. Not done yet. Won't be done until, I don't know, God knows. End of July, maybe. Who knows?
Wow.
Yeah, because we had a delay. The electrician had to come in before the plasterboard people do it, and then the plumber's delayed, and then the plumber's gone on holiday, and then we've got to arrange a surveyor to come and measure up for the kitchen, and then the kitchen's got to get delayed because the surveyor can't come earlier, and then the kitchen's not going to be delivered until like the 11th of July. And then we've got to coordinate the fitter who will fit the kitchen. He's going to go on holiday, and it's like, just give me my house back. Yeah,
I guess the good thing is you're living with the in-laws, no matter how hard or easy that is, for both sides, I guess. But yeah, there's no demanding time that you need to get out.
Enough about me, Neil. How are you?
I'm good. It's been a good week. I'll start off with a personal highlight and a personal best.
Ooh,
talk about 5K times.
Personal wins, professional wins.
Yeah. So personal, definitely the 19-minute 24 5K I ran, which was awesome. I mean,
I like how you've just, you know, Gordon's reveling in his 24 minutes 40. He's under 25 minutes. Look at me, lad. Oh, and Neil comes in. Oh yeah, so just a casual 19 minutes and 24 second 5K.
Yeah. And yeah, it felt good. I mean, it's been 2 years since I had a 19-minute 57 5K 2 years ago, so it's nice to finally get down below the 50 mark, and now I'm chasing the 18 minutes, which is good. And I think semi down to my fitness, probably the fittest I've been. My mileage is definitely going up. My VO2 max is improving ridiculously, but it's also the shoes. The shoes I've mentioned a few times, which is the Vaporflies.
There is something to say though about the general running conditions that make quite a big difference. So you've got like almost two factors. You've got your nutritional preparation and sleep. And then you've also got the general like weather conditions, for example. Because if it's 34 degrees outside, Neil, and 92% humidity, you ain't doing a 19-minute 24 seconds.
Yeah, no, I agree.
If it's like 7 degrees, no wind, flat, like there's so many factors you have to take into that. And one of them, yeah, sure, shoes are great, But then is that weather condition thing? Because like this morning, it was perfect. It was like a spring day, you know, a little bit cold, maybe like 7 or 8 degrees, 10 degrees maybe, shady, flat. Gordon's getting a PB, isn't he?
Nice. But yeah, no, it's a good point. And but just for the record, the course did have lots of hills. So if I was on a track, I'd be hitting that 18 minutes, I think.
Anyway. See, it's like a race car driver, aren't you? You know? Oh, yeah, she's got better suspension than me.
That's definitely a personal and a work highlight. Is probably planning for next week. So I'm down in London for 4 or 5 days. Got a massive event that I'm going to with work. We've got a stand there, and it's kind of all about kind of digital banking and digitizing the finance industry. And there's a few events on it in the evenings. So there's like a drinks reception, and the next day there's a big dinner with a musical and stuff. So yeah, just getting prepped for that, which should be exciting.
Nice.
In terms of kids, how have they been? Pretty good. I had an incident this morning actually, which I may as well tell people about, which is, it kind of comes on to random dad chat. Is you've got a 3-year-old that doesn't really understand kind of politically correct terms and what you should and shouldn't say in a shopping centre. And as we were going around this shop, there's a relatively big chap, morbidly obese. Put it out there, he's probably never going to listen to this. And Lewis turns around and says, "Daddy, look at that fat man," or "Isn't he really fat, Daddy?" And definitely an earshot of the man. And I had obviously had to be the responsible parent, and I was responsible and told him that. How do you think that made him feel? How do you think that made him? Lewis doesn't really know yet. He's 3 years old. He doesn't know what words affect him. So you explain it. You kind of tell him the impact of it and what it could or couldn't do. But then to top it off, he's got a twin brother, Ben. And 5 minutes later, Ben was like, "Psst, Lewis, look at him."
Oh my God.
Same guy. And yeah, it's hard. It's hard. That was definitely a low light.
Yeah, I can see it. You know, I can see how you went about it, and I think you probably went about it right. And you know, explaining to words have meaning, and they come with a side of feeling. But at the same time, if a 3-year-old is pointing out that you're fat, or you're carrying you're not fat. You are not fat. You have excess fat, right?
Yeah.
If a 3-year-old is pointing that out,
maybe it's a wake up call.
Maybe, probably not. But
yeah, I know. But yeah, I mean, and that kind of leads me on to my kind of first topic is over the last couple of weeks I've been listening to this book called Unconditional Parenting by a chap called Alfie Kohn, and I think he's a psychologist, but it goes into all the details of like raising children unconditionally. And one of the big things is explaining emotion and explaining what words do and what words affect or what impact they have. And other parents, and this is not me judging, but other parents may have just shouted at a kid that did that and took him away and maybe grabbed his arm and gave him a really good stern talking to. But in reality, that's probably not going to have the impact it needs. And also, when we got home, I sat down with Lewis and just reminded him, like, how do you think that felt? 'Cause in the moment, he's probably full of a bit of adrenaline. He's excited. He's in a shop. But yeah, also revisiting that is something that Alfie from that book looks at. And yeah, in terms of, I'll probably distill some of my main takeaways from that book, and Gordon can chip in. But when I sat with Ali Abdal, I don't know why I go with surname, I kind of announced that I use bribes quite a lot, and if you want your child to do something, you generally, well, not generally, but sometimes you bribe them if it needs to be done. Like, I don't know, you're going to be late for school, or you're going to be late for something that's really important. Oh, you'll get a sweetie on the way, or something like that. Or tidy your room. I mean, that's not something I've done, but yeah, bribery isn't great. Also praise. So praise, reward, and punishment, he kind of is against in terms of this is essentially controlling your child. And he doesn't agree with that. Instead, you should take the time to explain. So an example he uses is if your kid is hitting another kid, explain how that other child is feeling during that hitting thing. Don't just say, go to timeout or smack him or anything like that. Like, explain the situation, explain how that other kid would feel, and also challenge the kid that's hit the other kid, what you can do to make it better. Is it an apology? Is that sorry? If they're not old enough, then maybe just tell them to say sorry. But my boys certainly are at the age now where you can kind of ask them, what would make Ben happy? He's sad now. Well, Lewis may go and get him a toy, he may give him a cuddle, he may say sorry, and it generally helps. I don't know what your thoughts are, Gordon, on that.
I guess the first thing it springs to mind is actually the reinforcement aspect of all of that, because it's about that consistency. And yeah, there's a few things. The first one is the reinforcement. So I'm curious about how you then have a combined like teamwork thing with your wife. So Rebecca, how do you both then are on the same page? Because that's quite a large part of that process, is that if you want to adopt the idea of removing praise, removing rewards, removing punishment to a certain extent. I mean, punishment still is something that you have to know. Like, if Lewis hits someone, you're still punishing him by telling him that he has to go and say sorry. There's not a nice feeling about saying sorry, I guess.
You're not telling him, though. You ask him what would make him feel better.
It's like a psychiatrist thing to do. Get someone to come up with their own come up with their own solutions rather than offer some. But yeah, I guess I'm curious about how you negotiate it as a team, I guess.
Yeah, no, it's a valid point.
That's the hard part, right?
It is, because we've all got different styles. We've all been brought up differently, which has the impact of how you bring up your children. And we also read different things and take in different things. And Rebecca certainly does have her own way of parenting. Individuals do, but it's something you've got to try and agree on. I mean, and not necessarily. So also Alfie mentions that each parent doesn't have to be the same. It's okay to be slightly different. It's okay to have different parenting styles, but as long as they try and align to some basic principles, and he tries to set out what the principle or what you could make your principles, and you agree them. So maybe there's a parent that gives a bit more praise if there's a really good picture that the kid's drawn. The other parent may not give necessarily as much praise, but may point out a certain thing in the picture. So an example might be Isla. She's 7 years old. She's drawn a really nice picture with a house, some flowers and a sun. Rebecca might say, wrongly or rightly, but probably rightly, is that a great picture, is really, really nice. But I might turn around and say, I really like the house you've drawn. I like the shape of the roof. I like the windows you've made. And be a bit more specific and a bit more, detailed. And that generally helps. So yeah, I think my takeaway from what Alfie was saying is try and agree your overall principles, and it's okay to deviate sometimes depending on the parent.
And I guess there's the development of the emotional intelligence aspect is a lot of what you're talking about, because a lot of us will react in a way in which is about ourselves and not really thinking about the person that's in front of us and what their take on and what we're doing. And yeah, that seems to be something that you're talking about there. It's like if I act like this, how does that affect people around me? And that's part of, like, if they want to get anywhere in the world or succeed in anything, I guess you've got to you have to take into consideration other people's feelings and what their intrinsic motivations are.
Yeah, no, you're dead right. And that's one of the biggest things that he tries to teach his children, is that, think of other people's perspective, think of other people and how they might be feeling the situation.
Does he talk about arguing in front of your children?
Yeah, and he supports it.
Oh, what kind of argument though?
I don't think it goes into that. Obviously, not cursing, swearing, and hitting and punching, but
yes, because that's what you do all the time, Neil.
But yes, certain conflicts, he said, they shouldn't be avoided.
Okay.
And then the reason being is show the making up after a conflict in front of your children as well. So try and deliberately say you're sorry to your wife, or the wife's sorry to you in front of your kids, and they kind of cotton on to say, like, conflict is okay, and you can make things better after conflict. But again, there's obviously varying degrees of defining conflict. If it's just an argument over, I don't know, my pasta's not cooked properly, maybe that's okay to have an argument about it and say sorry. And also, I mean, I'm quite a big advocate, and this was before I read Alfie's book, about apologising to my children. So, I mean, I've got 2 3-year-olds and a 7-year-old, and sometimes I lose my shit, and sometimes it just gets too much for me, and I shout, and I make them cry. And again, no parent's perfect. If you say you've never shouted at your kids and you're a perfect parent, and then no, you're not. You're lying. But anyway, I apologise. So there was an incident, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago. I think Isla just point blank refused to get out of the bath. I wanted to get her to school. It was school time. She just refused to get out of the bath, and I wanted to help her get out of the bath and dry her. And I ended up just lifting her out and putting her out on and drying her. And it was a bit abrupt. It was a bit, I wouldn't say physical. I didn't obviously hit her, but I also grabbed her and lifted her out of the bath in the heat of the moment. I wanted her out of the bath and she was refusing. But after, on the way to school, I apologised because I realised that wasn't the right thing to do. And I think that's a really important thing. Even from a 3-year-old, I still apologise to Ben and Lewis if I think I'm out of order and maybe I was in a heated confrontation with them and I shouldn't have been shouting. Yeah, I think that's a big lesson. Alfie supports that. So conflict's fine.
But is there something there of, like, is there part of it they have to know who's boss? And I don't mean in sense of like a boss who's in charge and has no remorse for the things that they do. But ultimately, in any situation that is safe or unsafe or requires an adult's like rational thinking, ultimately you have to take charge. And sometimes that is, there's a small physical element to it. Not that you have intentions to hurt anyone, but they have to understand where they sit on some sort of hierarchy, I guess, that they cannot get away with it. And sometimes showing strength and showing who you are as part of the family is kind of an important part of that process, I guess.
I definitely agree with that. An example might be one of the kids is running towards the road and you've told them not to run on the road or beside the road, but he does it anyway, and you grab their arm quite forcefully because you don't want him to go into the road. I would then take Lewis to one side, maybe not in the heat of the moment, but explain why I grabbed his arm. It's unsafe. The consequences of if he fell on that road and he was running, then he would end up in hospital. He was hit by a car. And it's kind of, telling them the bigger picture. So I think if parents just grab that kid's arm and don't really explain why, don't really explain the need for that kind of forceful act, I think that's wrong.
Okay, that's fair.
I agree with that. And another thing he teaches is teaching them responsibility. I think I mentioned that, teaching them responsibilities, but also rather like work with them rather than doing to them. So an example might be, I just spoke about it, is that you shouldn't tell them to go and say sorry. You should work with them to try and find a way for them to figure out saying sorry might help, or giving them a cuddle. And another thing is give them choices. So one thing we've done from a pretty young age, and I think this was during Isla's being a baby, is if they wake up in the morning and some parents might lay out all their clothes and like, this is what you're wearing today, and they have a fight about it and they say, I'm not getting dressed. Well, let them choose their clothes. I mean, they might end up in a ridiculous shirt and ridiculous trousers, but what's wrong with that? They're going to nursery. They'll have a laugh. The kids have chosen it. Lewis loves his funky shirts. He loves wearing his Christmas shirt when it's summer. That's okay. Who cares? Like,
yeah, no, I'm on board with that, Neil. That's a parent status game bollocks, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, like, who cares? Yeah. You know, I'd go outside in a tutu if I could. Let's be honest.
Lewis is loving life in his Christmas shirt.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, no, I'm all for that. There was one thing I was quite interested in when you were talking about this is Olivia's 9 months old now, and she understands tone of voice.
Yeah.
She doesn't. I don't know if she understands words, but she certainly understands when Daddy's like, "No, you're having this banana because we know that it's good for her in the future," and she'll whatever else. But ultimately, there's no explaining why she should eat her banana. She's 9 months old, right? There's no like, Olivia, listen to me, okay? If you don't eat, you're not going to sleep very well, and you're going to be grumpy, okay? So nobody wants a grumpy Olivia. She doesn't know any of that. But I found that when she is having sort of an interesting, weird, emotional episode, which is clearly a strop, effectively, about eating, or she wants her toast rather than the porridge that you've given her, or the Weetabix or whatever else. That tone seems to help, but I guess I'm nowhere near a stage of like negotiating or helping her understand, improve her emotional intelligence aspect of things. Yeah. I'm still skirting around the idea of, you know. But then I guess there's kind of part of me feels like we're her parents, and there is part of it we know better for her. You know, we can see into the future much better than she can, and even probably as she gets older, until she's a at least a teenager or close to it, you do know better because you have the hindsight of time and you understand what's happened. But at the moment, there's just there's just tone of voice at the moment to get her to eat or do something, for example.
It definitely works. Even now, like the boys and I will understand when I'm angry because my tone changes, my demeanor changes, and all that is a big thing. But even going back to the choice thing, some parents will fight getting them to eat breakfast, and again, it depends what age. I'm going from a 3-year-old and a 7-year-old. But what we do every breakfast is let them choose what they want. And the argument back could be, well, what if they choose a really sugary sweet thing? Well, don't have that in the house. Don't have that for breakfast. Just have things like porridge, unsugared shredded wheat, Rice Krispies that have got no sugar in them, like suitable things, toast, that kind of thing. And they'll generally make the right choices. And if you explain why that's a good choice, or try and challenge them to maybe think healthy. So, right, this breakfast, I want you to try and make your breakfast a bit more healthier. Maybe add some fruit, add some berries, add some protein powder. Lewis loves his protein powder.
Wow, awesome.
And yeah, like that's another thing I've learned is try and challenge them to think about health. And a 3-year-old will understand that putting a bit of banana in their porridge will probably be a bit more healthier. Not putting honey in. Honey's not healthy, but if he wants it, then we give it in moderation. We explain he can have a little bit, but not every day, and he doesn't get it all the time. But if he wants it today, that's fine. But tomorrow and the next day, he probably won't get it. So yeah, just that's a big thing is choice, and that makes. I mean, they love going down for breakfast. They love making their own stuff now.
Interesting.
So, yeah, solid advice, and yeah, some of the stuff's from Alfie, and the other stuff's from 7 years of being a dad.
Oh, you almost swear there.
I swear.
Yeah, there is that autonomy thing, isn't there?
Yes, autonomy is a good word.
It's not too dissimilar to like management techniques, right? That you use with adults. Let's be honest. Like you're negotiating with a 5-year-old, you're negotiating with a 55-year-old. Is not really that different. They're able to answer back a little bit more, and you have to be careful with the words that you choose. Yeah,
stop micromanaging your kids. Maybe that's a new book, Gordon.
There you go. That's a book. That's a Developing Dads podcast book. Stop micromanaging your kids. No, I like that. I suppose I was listening to podcasts this week a little bit, and these existential crises, pondering things that have been going on this week. One of them is really something that I'm kind of tussling with personally, is the idea of like priorities. When you're like 20. Even mid-20s, even pre-kids, even pre-wife, pre-everything, pre-mortgage. You have so much time, right? So you don't really prioritize things. You just kind of go with the flow. And often that means that you can just do generally speaking, whatever you like. There's no like, oh, I've got to not do this because I've got to do this. It's just like, I'll just do that, and I'll do that, and I'll do that, and I'll do that because I've got all this time. But now being 34 going on 35 soon, dad of 1, provider of 2, having 2 mortgages to pay, a job, all these kind of responsibilities. I find it really difficult to understand how I prioritize things and what should be my priorities. I think that's probably the better question. What should be my priorities? If I make a decision now to do this thing, will that impact me when I'm in my rocking chair at 65, 70? And I'd look back and think that was a bad decision. So I'm kind of tussling with that. And there was a podcast by Stephen Bartlett, the Diary of the CEO, with a guy called, I think it's Lewis Holmes or Lewis Hume or something like that. I've forgotten it, but I think he was an NFL football player. He's kind of like an entrepreneur kind of person, like businessy, coachy. He's one of these kind of personality aspects. And he was talking about priorities, and I found it quite interesting the way that he distilled it and went through it. In effect, he's not married, doesn't have any children, but he was talking to a new girl that he was wanting to date, and he was being very honest with her. And he said that you'll never be my number one. And I was like, that's interesting. There's not many men would be happy to admit to their wife or their girlfriend or their significant other that they are not their number one. Because it's kind of like it's a given, right? You should.
Yeah.
If you turn around to Rebecca and said you're not my number one, like However, if she turned around to you and said you're not her number one, you'd be like, oh yeah, it's the kids. Okay, fine, that's okay. Anyway, but anyway, so he said that, and he was like, you're going to have to be okay with that. But this is my priority. These are my lists of things. And his first one was his health. He was like, look, my priority is my health, because that's the bedrock and the foundation of absolutely everything. So every day, or at least most of the time, I will prioritize my health. So I will go to the gym when you maybe want me. I will go for a run when maybe you feel like you want me to be your priority. But I have to make my health my priority, because that is the thing that ultimately bleeds off into everything else. So I'm going to look after that.
Yeah.
And then his second one, he was like, you're not even second. You're not even my second priority. And his second priority, I think he's a little bit religious, but his priority was his mission from God. So I guess that's his kind of like he sees as his purpose, if we were to kind of take the religious context out of it. And he was like, whatever I'm doing, like that's whatever my purpose is, to help people or help build businesses or do whatever I'm doing, fundamentally that is another priority. So I will work later. I will get up earlier to go to work. I will work long hours. I might go away for periods of time. Like, that will be a thing that is ultimately a priority for me. But you are third. You are third on my list. You will be you are a priority after me serving my health, serving my mission, and then me serving this relationship overall and looking after it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess I don't really know. I'm still kind of trying to work it out, because I don't have anyone who's just a little bit older than me, maybe 10 years older than me, who's kind of been through this idea of like juggling priorities. And I don't know. I don't know how to work it out. I don't know what is the right decision, right choice. Do I sacrifice the enjoyment from my career to spend more time with my family, but then go to work day to day and probably not really enjoy it or not feel like I'm fulfilled in what I'm doing? Or do I sacrifice some family time and go to work and do work that feels fulfilling?
It's a super hard one. When I had the decision maybe 6 months ago now to go down to a 4-day week and work Monday to Thursday, and I had to sacrifice 10% of my salary to get 20% of my time back, essentially. And it was a good deal. I was still able to earn enough money to sustain kind of Rebecca and the 3 kids and have a relatively relaxed life. We can't go on big holidays. We can't do big lavish things, but I'm comfortable with that. I mean, we drive an okay car. We can go for coffee if we want. We can take the kids soft play. That's okay. And something interesting you said is like, what changes are you making now that may impact you when you're 65, 70? And like, I thought long and hard about this 4-day week. I'm going to get some time back to myself. I can do what I want on a Friday when the kids are in school and stuff. But I'm taking in less money. What kind of impacts is that going to have? Maybe less to my pension. Maybe less money to do nicer things. 10% is not a lot, but it's still some. And yeah, wrongly or rightly, I maybe figure this out when I'm sitting in my rocking chair at 65, 70 years old. But I think I've made the right decision. And 6 months later, I'm loving it. Like, every Friday, I love it. Like, I get my own time to go on a long run if I want, going to Edinburgh yesterday. And yeah, like, it's priceless. Absolutely priceless. Like, it's definitely worth that 10% hit. And I think it's going to pay dividends because I'm a better dad. I'm a better husband. I can support Rebecca more from a mental point of view. I can take the kids away from her on the Friday so she doesn't have to go and pick them up in school. Like, there's loads of pluses for that 10% hit. And yeah.
Yeah, I do, I do like what you're saying there. And it does, it is an interesting thing to think about.
And it's not like I've been foolish and not thought about the bigger things, not thought about, would this 10% actually be better in my pension, or would it be better to buy nicer clothes, but I'm okay with it. I'm okay with buying Primark.
Yeah, no,
I don't know that.
Yeah, no, and I don't know, because for me it's not a case of having materialistic items, I guess. It's nice to buy Lululemon shorts or whatever else, and But it's also nice that I probably have a bigger cushion than you, if I'm honest.
Oh yeah, I'm not going to deny that.
And, that to me means that, if anything, touch wood, anything happens, fundamentally, I'm probably better prepared for something like that happening. And yeah, I don't know. I don't, it's just kind of amusing. Like, I don't really know how to answer it. I don't know that, because every time I feel like I've invested something where I genuinely don't know if it'll pay off, it's paid off.
Yeah.
In two or three big instances, maybe four big incidences. When I decided to quit my quit my job as a restaurant manager, take a 50%, 60% pay cut, and go and work as a gym instructor in a gym. That paid off pretty well. Like, that decision paid off very well. But it was that. If you actually thought about it, I actually thought about that decision. It was a stupid, mental, genuinely mental. It's similarly kind of thing. Like, the hours and hours and hours and hours and hours that I've spent editing, late nights, doing things and vlogging and all that kind of crap. That was dumb because I got no return on it. My YouTube channel didn't grow at all. I earned good money as an online coach, but fundamentally, like, it wasn't a very good investment of my time. It wasn't very smart, but it was. Like, look where I am. Look what I'm doing.
Yeah,
Yeah. And that's the real genuine conundrum, is that sometimes in the moment it maybe doesn't feel like it will pay off, or maybe I'm not even looking for it to necessarily pay off. But because of that attitude, it could. And historically speaking, it has. So I just have that kind of like huge conflict where, maybe it's the carrot. Maybe I'm looking at the carrot aspect of things and thinking, if I work hard now, in 10 years' time, it's all going to pay off, and I get retired early and all that kind of thing. Because again, it's like that conundrum I'm thinking about is, if I sacrifice time now, let's say for 10 years, right, a lot of the hard work, maybe 15 years. Let's say I'm 50. I put a lot of work in at 50. I sacrifice a lot of time with friends and family and that kind of thing. But I'm retired at 50. I'm not retired in the sense that I'm going to do absolutely nothing, but it's just that I have the financial freedom where I can choose whatever the hell I want to do. And Olivia is still very young. She's only 15 years old. If I have another child, maybe they'll be only 12 years old, let's say. And those years there feel pretty significant, or just as significant as, say, a 5-year-old Olivia or a 6 or 7-year-old Olivia. But that would mean that I could literally do anything I wanted. I get to the financial freedom point where Laura doesn't have to work, I don't have to work, and we can still do all the things you talk about, like go off on nice holidays and do some nice bits and pieces, and Dad can go and do some consultancy once or twice a week if he really wants to, mentor some business people, and help them build their careers. I don't know, Neil.
Yeah, we take a different look on that. So I'm very much not necessarily the right now, but the right now and the 1 to 2 years kind of in my head. So right now I'm happy working 4 days. I could change jobs, work 5 days and earn a lot more money. I could go into a proper consultancy and earn 30-40% more, and then maybe retire, 5-10 years earlier. But you just don't know what's around the corner. You don't know that, you might get cancer. You might have a debilitating illness. Like, you just don't know what's around the corner. So, I don't know. It's very different views. You're the kind of work hard now, smash things now. Hopefully in 10, 15, 20 years you can retire. I'm like, I'm okay if I retire at 65. I don't mind that.
The sprint versus the jog, I guess.
Yeah, no, I think that's it. And like, I see, so William, my father-in-law, he's listened to a couple of episodes. I don't know if he's listened to this. He's a bit of an inspiration. So his birthday was last week. How old was he? 61, 62, 63 maybe. Early 60s. And I think he's on his way. You can see the retirement. So maybe in a couple of years' time he's going to retire. But his life in his 50s and his early 60s has been amazing. Like, he works 4-day weeks, but he's paid off his mortgage. He's managed to. He does lots of traveling. He climbs up big mountains. He's got his fitness, and he's really happy. And he only works 4 days a week. So I don't know, if I can be 50, 60 years old and work 4 days a week, still climb mountains, still go on big adventures, I'm okay with that, I think.
But there's been something there he's prioritized, though, isn't there? And one of the big parts is his health. Like, he hasn't allowed work, for example, and other aspects of it to impact his ability to go and do stuff.
Yeah.
So I guess when I'm listening to that podcast, it kind of, the honesty of saying that your health is a priority, it kind of, to me, that then tells me that even if I work really hard and maybe I don't get as much time with family and friends and things, but I still manage to maintain my health, because I think a lot of people will sacrifice like health, or they'll put work into everything, and they sacrifice health like to a huge amount because they're working super long hours and they don't go to the gym, they don't go for a run, they don't do those kind of like, and health, I don't just mean exercise, I also mean, taking downtime and doing stretching.
Mental health as well.
Yeah, a bit of mental health aspect. So I guess there's part of that is like, maybe I can do all this priority thing, right? Or maybe I can be all things to all people that are my two priorities, which outside of health, which is my mission. I don't know what that is. That just sounds woohoo, but whatever it is, and my family, my wife and my children. But I have to, maybe for me to do that, I really have to prioritize health, and I can't allow either of those things to dominate me, or to stop me being able to exercise and to do the right things. Like, because your Friday, to me, what it sounds more like, because you probably do some sort of health pursuit perhaps on a Friday. You probably, like you say, take some time on your own. Like, I think we're very similar in the sense that we're equally as happy spending time with a group of people, but equally as happy just being on our own in the middle of a bloody field.
Yeah.
Picking our noses. So I guess there's like, that seems like something for you. That seems like your therapy, I guess, which is kind of your health. So you work less, and you obviously get to take the kids to school, and that's really nice. But maybe I can still work and just still try and find the balance, find that balance of priority, which is only really, there seems to be only two priorities there for me then, which is health and family and work, I guess.
I think the most important thing is talking about it, thinking about it, digesting it, reviewing it every 6 months, 3 months, and is it working? Do I need to change anything? But I think we should move on. I think that's a good topic. We've discussed it lots. But
it's the random chats, Neil. That's the point. I'm totally unprepared for this conversation, but it's definitely something that I've been thinking a lot about.
One thing I wanted to distill, it comes back, kind of taking it back to the dad chat stuff and what I do as a dad, quite religiously actually. I don't know where I learned it from. I listened to hundreds of podcasts, lots of audiobooks, lots of books. I don't know where I learned it from, but I think it's going to have I hope it has a big effect, a big impact. And I started it when the kids were maybe 2.5, 3 years old, and I still do it to this day with Isla. I've probably missed, say, a handful of days when I haven't done this, but it is reflecting on the day. So talking to Isla before she goes to bed, during dinner time, whenever it is, or in the car on the way back from swimming, is what's been the highlight of the day, what's made you really happy, but also what has been a sad part of the day and what has upset you. And just spending 5 minutes talking about those things is, I think, really powerful. And we went through a period of time of even writing them down. And we don't write them down anymore. We just have a verbal chat. Writing down came a bit of a barrier. Like, we'd be like, well, we have a notepad or pen or whatever. We just, somebody's doing it in the car. And even the boys. So I still, at the dinner table, I'll ask the boys, what was the happiest day, happiest time today, and what was a sad time? Then you find out things. So maybe a boy at nursery hit them. Maybe they didn't get their snack they wanted from the teacher. And it just opens up that level of, I think, emotional intelligence, even at 3 years old, that it's okay to talk about things that maybe didn't necessarily go well. And we do it too. I tell Isla my things that have made me sad, and Rebecca does that too. So yeah, I think, I don't know what impact it's going to have on the kids, but I think, Gordon, you'd agree with our upbringing, feelings were kind of not really spoken about. I think that's a lot. I think that happens a lot in households, and even in this day and age, people don't talk about feelings. I've spoke to friends that have had the opposite parents that didn't speak about feelings, and I don't know what the impact is. Maybe I'm quite a closed book, so Rebecca will tell you that I don't really talk about feelings to her. I don't really express how I'm feeling, and it can have an impact. It can things can bubble to the top and bubble to the surface, and then you have a big outbreak or a big kind of argument. But I hope with Isla and with the kids, I'm kind of trying to get them to speak about feelings more than.
And it's a good kind of way to do it, I guess. I've often found having food a good distracting tool to be able to talk to people about things, because you're thinking about chewing and the taste of the food without really thinking too hard about, or being too self-conscious about how you feel about things. And no, that sounds like a really good thing to do. And I really like the cliche idyllic picture in my mind of us all sat around having dinner together and talking about how our day was and how we're feeling, and if there's any conflicts and whatnot within our family network, I guess. Yeah. And
you're right. If you do it during an act of doing something else, like eating, or even in the car. So if I was concentrating in the car of things going past, she generally opens up more than if you just sat her down in a seat and said, right, we're going to have a chat about.
And we used to do it. I remember during the lockdown for me and Laura, and it was kind of funny, but like the lockdown for me during COVID with Laura, I've got some amazing fond memories of that time. I couldn't imagine being you with with all your kids in the house. But just me and Laura, we spent so much more time together. But we'd have like moments in the day where we'd go for a walk because, we had to go and like do something like exercise.
An hour of exercise a day, Gordon, that's all you're allowed.
But we took advantage of, like, we did that, and we explored so many areas around where we live that we would never done before. But we just ended up like talking, because we were walking around and chatting, and equally as well, with a friend, even rather than going for a coffee or going for dinner or whatnot, we'd go for a walk, because that's what you could do. You can obviously go to a restaurant.
Yeah.
And I really, really liked that time, where you were not sat down. There was something more about that kind of, that energy that you were expelling that was giving you energy back to, want to open up about things and talk about stuff. And it was, no, I like that idea, Neil. I have some fond memories of that stuff, certainly during lockdowns, where I definitely connected with Laura a lot more on a deeper level, because we probably slept enough, and we probably ate pretty well. I was definitely a bit chubby at that time. And then, no, I think that's a really good thing to do, Neil. I think it's... I'd
encourage it when Olivia gets chatting away and has her own thoughts and feelings. It's
a debrief, isn't it, really? It's a debrief. How was your day? How did it go? Everything okay? Everyone happy? Everyone, doing all right? And it's just that check-in, like that check-in that we do every time we do this podcast. Like, hey, how are you? I don't know if we could say everything that we're up to or what we're doing, but at the same time, that's been something that we've developed doing this podcast. And I was talking to someone at one of the part-time YouTuber Academy things, and he listens to the podcast, Neil.
Nice.
And he was like, what are your plans for it? In his, he was a lovely chap, but he's obviously a bit younger than us. And he was asking that question as a kind of entrepreneurial spirit type of thing, which I get. And I was kind of like, if Apple wanted to sponsor the podcast for $100,000, I'd be up for it. But I just said to him, I was just like, this is just about immortalizing conversations. But for me, it's also about that connection aspect of just, we wouldn't have a conversation like this otherwise. Sadly, it just wouldn't. We'd probably check in every so often on iMessage or WhatsApp or whatever else and say hello, and then the odd FaceTime when Isla's trying to message me when she's in the bath or something like that.
Yeah.
And that would be the only time we'd connect. But I don't know where I'm going with that. It's just a conversation, I guess.
No, it's cool, and also kind of taking it back to the emotional side of stuff is being vulnerable in front of your kids. I think it's an important thing. So don't always be macho man. Don't always be the dad figure that you think is right, the Superman or the Hulk. Like, be vulnerable. Like, open up about what's making you sad. Maybe obviously taper it down a little bit. You don't want to spill your guts to your 3-year-old, but it shows them that it's okay to speak about your sad bits. Even dad, even mum have things in their life that stress them out. yeah, just be quite open to your kids as well.
And I guess how you're dealing with it is because your children are just copying you, aren't they?
Yeah, yeah,
You're their idea of what a human being is and how a human being should act. And I hope gone are the days that men can't cry in front of the children, or can't feel like they can't.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's I find that really important, because I don't cry very often, and I'd probably do it on my own if I normally would.
Yeah, no, you're
and
right.
that's
right.
Yeah, that's not good, is it? It's nice to be a good example to your children that you can be upset about something and express that.
Yeah.
And everyone does it, regardless of how you see them, I guess.
Yeah. Again, taking it full circle, so obviously we've both kind of distilled things that we want to do to our kids. We've no idea what the impact that's going to be. Is it going to make them great humans when they're 18, 19, 20 years old? We've no idea. But it feels right just now. I've been told by some guy called Alfie that it's the right thing to do.
We should get him on the podcast, Neil. We should reach out to him, see if he'll come on.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's just, I guess keep experimenting, keep trying different things. If it feels right, keep doing it. And that's my final comments, I think.
That's fair. That is such a fair thing to say, Neil, because you just don't know what the hell you're doing.
No, nobody does.
No idea. I mean, you might have a reference, but even then, you don't remember probably the first 3 years or 4 years of your life or whatever else. So you've no idea how our parents raised us, or how Laura raised her parents, or Rebecca was raised by her parents, and you're just kind of guessing. You're totally guessing.
Yeah.
Will she hate me? Will Olivia hate me because I've worked too much? Will she love me because I've provided for them and put everything I could into being a dad that I could be? Or at least, I guess bringing my happiness to my relationship with Olivia rather than her being my happiness. And I suppose that's what my work and my mission, I don't know. It sounds so woohoo when I say that, but there is part of it, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe in 25, 30 years when she listens to this podcast, she'll turn around to me and say, "You were right, Dad," or "You're wrong, Dad." It'd be a bit horrible if she says I'm wrong. Holy crap. I'll definitely cry in front of you if you say that.
Would that be episode 5,000? Don't know. We'll
know. What would be 20 years? One a week, so 52 a year. Maybe 1,000.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty cool. Hit 1,000 podcasts over
so
a year.
What have you got planned for Saturday and Sunday?
Today, Jack and KP are around, so his fiancée. They're telling us about their wedding venue for
nice.
a couple of years' time. And they're around. This afternoon, we might have a barbecue, I think. I don't know what we're going to do. I'm definitely going to have... I haven't had anything to drink for a while, like a nice glass of... a bottle of wine or something. I might have one of them. I'm feeling like I want one. I don't know, maybe that's after the run. And then tomorrow... we've got to get rid of something in the garden. I don't know, we've got to cut some bloody tree thing down in our garden. I don't know, Neil. This is not something I want to do.
Wow.
I want to be rich enough where I can pay people to do that, but currently I'm not. So. And then tomorrow we've got... it's Ali. Ali invited me, Laura, and Olivia to a birthday brunch. It was his birthday. He turned 28 this week, so we're off to that to see. So I get to meet some of his friends, and I think I'm the only one with a baby. So that will be passed around, I'm sure, and everyone will have a great time with her, and she'll be crying and screaming her head off. And that's kind of it, actually. And then it's back to the grind on Monday.
Nice.
How about you? Oh, you're doing something a bit fancy that I can't do.
Yeah, we've I won't go into the details, but it's our mother's birthday, 60 years old, and we're going to a hotel with family and seeing friends. Unfortunately, Gordon can't make it.
There's good reasons why I can't make it. £550 to take a family up to Crieff Hydro outside Edinburgh. I can't. I need a new roof, Neil.
Yeah, mad.
I'd love to be able to do it, but it just wouldn't.
We'll celebrate when we're down in. I keep forgetting August.
Yeah, first week of August, we've got Olivia's first birthday.
In the diary. Oh, and for the pod, I calculated how much it costs to take my kids to Legoland for one day. It's open for about 8 hours in a day. How much is it? It's £200 for three kids, two adults to just go for the day. And that doesn't even include lunch or drinks or like fast pass to not queue.
So you're 300 deep then, aren't you? Really?
Yeah.
After all that,
Just for 8 hours.
Yeah.
And like by hour 6, they'll be too tired to do anything. So
yeah, and you'll be there. Get on the ride. Do you know how much this ride cost me? £5. Get on it.
yeah, it's not dark yet. Keep going.
But that's like, you know, if you think about it, that's probably like at least half a week's work for you, Neil.
Yeah.
You've done to do a day at Legoland is probably maybe 20 hours of your week.
Yeah, yeah. I don't understand how these places can justify that. I mean,
Well, they can justify it, Neil, because people are willing to pay it.
Yeah, true.
You know, it's economy. It's a capitalism at its finest. Supply and demand.
Yeah.
People are paying it.
So, like, I mean, the awkward thing is, Isla told her school, our class, that she's going to Legoland in summer.
Great. So then you'll be sat at night time with her when she's told her friend she's not going to Legoland because it's cost £300, and she's going, "Daddy, I'm sad because I didn't go to Legoland." You're going to start crying in front of her, and we've got this emotional intelligence that we've been talking about in this whole podcast. There you go.
Or I could get her a job and she could understand what earning money's like.
Yeah, get her a job, Neil, at 7. Get her down the mines.
Yes. Anyway,
All
on
right.
that note, that was a good random podcast. Quite like that.
It was. Yeah, I mean, I don't
No
mind
prep.
these. Next time we should do it drunk.
Wow, well, next time is going to be under London Bridge, I think.
Oh yes, fantastic. Have we got that booked in? Is that night time we're doing it?
Thursday evening, I'm hoping.
Oh, brilliant. Well, I'll get some tinnies.
I'm like, Tuesday night, I'm drinking with the reception. Wednesday night, there's a big meal thing.
You don't have to drink, Neil.
Yeah.
Don't have to. Right. Enough of that podcast. Shall I close it out since you
Sounds good.
we're
Sounds good.
almost incapable of doing the Developing Dads podcast?
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening to episode 23 of the Developing Dads podcast. It was a lovely one with Neil talking about random chats. If you haven't already, you can check us out on YouTube. Subscribe on there. You can see our glorious shining faces, and you can see how Neil sits in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen with his little pea head, and my fat head's right in the middle of it. You can also check us out on Instagram, Developing Dads. Neil sometimes posts reels that he's responsible for, sometimes he doesn't. So you can check out a bunch on there.
Yeah.
And see what you think. But either way, I still, even after 23 episodes, still really love doing these podcasts. I think they're great chats, and I'm glad we make time for them. And I also hope the 1.5 listeners that have managed to get to the end of this podcast are still enjoying it. But either way, we're still enjoying the journey. So thanks very much for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.
Cheers. Have a good one.